and welcome to another issue of Cracking the Cryptic. And today we're going to have a look at my solve of today's Times crossword, and I'll try and give you a clue as we go along what I'm looking for and how I'm looking to approach clues and get started. So I've started up the solve here. It took me quite a while to find anything. For some reason I was flicking through the clues very quickly here, looking for any really helpful definition where I thought I knew what the defined answer would be, or any really obvious bit of wordplay that I could parse the clue quickly, work out what the wordplay was doing, and then figure out what the answer was. So I didn't find any. I mean, I must have looked at 7 or 8 clues at this point. This was down one. Commanding troops given relevant housing looked like a word for relevant, holding some troops, for which there are several abbreviations. Couldn't get that. Now here, Patriot, a Romanian, looked a very suspicious bit of phrasing, and indeed that supplied a hidden backwards. So the letters of Patriot, a Romanian, contain Innamorato, a lover, backwards, and that finally got me started. What I'm always looking to do is get some letters in the grid because they help shape the thinking. 14 across was quite a neat one there. Particular type of clue died out. 3 letters, and it began with O when I approached it. So there are 2 particular types of clue which are across and down. So it was quite simple once I thought of that, to remove the D for died from down and get own, which can certainly be defined as particular. Now 6 down, those commanding troops given relevant housing. I had been quite confident the troops would be one of the common 2-letter abbreviations for troops, RE, RA, OR, there may be others. But in fact it was GIs in material, and I was really very pleased to suddenly think of that. Magisterial was quite a hard word to come up with for commanding. 5 down, I'm never sure I really understood this entirely. I think it's just a cryptic definition. The answer was hot seat, but favourite target for those standing, ? Hardly. I think if you're in the hot seat, are you the favourite then, or is that the favourite target? I think as a target for those standing, a hot seat wouldn't be what they want to sit on. So that's why it says hardly. Probably the favourite is in the hot seat. I'm not quite sure I understand that. 2 down says stonecutter's staff here, and especially once it was 5 letters ending in N. I wanted to fill in mason very badly as the stonecutter, but I couldn't see how that would relate to staff here. So I kept on not putting it in, and in the end that was going to prove a relief. 9 down, dish containing dry leftover from pipe. Well, I'm lucky enough to be old enough to remember pipe smoking, which has pretty much died out now. And at some point I came across this word dottle for the refuse from a pipe that you tap out of it. Without that, frankly, you could have all the letters in that answer, and if you don't know the word dottle, dole for dish, as in dole out something, you dish it out, that's going to be very hard to come up with. So I do think 9 down, dottle, was a very hard answer. As I say, I'm glad I had the vocabulary at hand. 13 down was stockholder, using Stockholm as a capital without the M. I was thinking of shareholder for a while, but Stockholm was a much better capital than anything beginning sharehole. 27 across, everyone needs love, message that can be given out. Given out was making me think about allocate, but it took quite a while to remember that there's an adjective from allocate which isn't allocatable but is allocable, and the cable is the message after all for everyone and O for love. That was quite hard to come up with at the time. Some of these were quite quick, obviously. 21 across quite odd. Spell, and I think that's the definition for episode, adipose incorrectly without A, so that gives you EPISOD, because that's an anagram of adipose without A. And then second vowel is E, because I think is the second vowel in the alphabet, which is quite an unusual bit. Lovely anagram at 16 down. I'm not sure I've ever seen before that sou'wester is an anagram of sweet and sour, but that's a very nice spot by the compiler. And there were some good clues here. Quoted, saw, quoted, 5 letters. And it's cited because that means quoted, but it sounds like cited, S-I-G-H-T-E-D, meaning saw if you quote it. So again, very neat there. And then one down had taken me a long time. Winger's down time, and it is bluebird, one of those odd birds that people think is a British bird, possibly because there'll be bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover, but in fact is an American bird. I love the story that the American songwriters of that were unaware that the Britons didn't have a bluebird, so the song became famous as though there would ever be bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover. Then 3 down was 4, the homophone for the cardinal number 4. I'd been thinking about cardinal, the colour, being red, which was putting me off. 1 across was female F in beret, passing a hat round. And then the stonemason at 2 down, the stonecutter wasn't a mason, but in fact was Rodin, who's famously a sculptor in stone. I think he was other kinds of artist as well, to be fair, but he's obviously very famous for the Kiss and some of his other sculptures, so probably fair to call him a stonecutter. The staff is a rod, and here I suppose is in. Not 100% sure that's either fair or necessarily what it means. So then just pausing and having another look at some of these clues. There were some hard ones to get started with. My times ended up being very slightly over the average, although I thought in the middle stages I was solving quite fast. There were some quite neat spots among the clues, so that 8 down. Where was it? Sorry, I do apologise. Just running down the clues here. 18 down. Even the tail end of storm at sea's intense. Looks like a clue about a gale at sea or a tempest, but in fact it's an anagram of even the, and the letter M from storm. At sea is the anagram indicator, and intense is the definition of vehement. So there we go. That's today's solve. Hope that's been interesting for you, and thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you again on Cracking the Cryptic. Thanks for your time. Do feel free to comment. It would be very interesting to hear from you.